Information hiding, unallocated space, file fragmentation, obfuscating strings are all ways we can hide information once we get on that server. Attributes, file signatures, file segmentation, and a great little feature we love from Microsoft called alternate data streams. And then another favorite, steganography, hiding information in plain sight. So let's look at each one of these. Unallocated space. What happens is file systems are arranged in clusters. Most common cluster size is 4 kilobytes or 4,096 bytes. If you have a 1K file, when it writes to the disk, if the smallest cluster is 4 kilobytes, how much is left over? 3 kilobytes of space remains, or 3,096 bytes. This area can be used to store information. We call this information slack space. For those of you, if you go on and do forensics, you have to learn how to search slack space and look for hidden information. With our hacker hat on, our red team hacker hat on, we look for slack space to hide information to cover our tracks. So if we come back later to the box, we know where to extract it and no one else does. Here's an example of slack space. We can put code there, sensitive information, passwords, we crack the hashes, the passwords, those types of things. We can put all of that in slack space. Forensics analysis is required to search slack space. Here we show an example of a program called foo.com. It's 3 kilobytes of data. In a 4 kilobyte cluster, it still leaves 1 kilobyte unused slack space. So I can put 1 kilobyte of code, sensitive information, or any data in that slack space. Information hidden in a file can be located using a text string search tool. We search the functionality and look for slack space. Usually we have to have a tool where we'll both look for ASCII and Unicode characters. So from a hacking standpoint, somebody has to go to this level of extreme investigation to detect our data. Obfuscating strings. We do this in case they do detect our data. Well, let's obfuscate it. Machines can read on any character set. So we can use abstract character sets to avoid discovery. Anybody ever look at the font Wingdings? This is an example of an abstract character set. Microsoft has many things in Unicode. Lots of times Unicode will get past a lot of the monitors or defenses. Usually not today, because most people have seen so many Unicode attacks, directory traversal for one, they won't allow it through. But again, we follow a structured methodology and process. We try everything and find what works, we document what works, and we come back to it. You also can use encoding. We can encode the data in either base64 encoding or another method to hide the information and hide the data from a casual onlooker. How about hiding files? We can hide files with the old attrib command, right? In DOS, Unix, Linux, the attrib command will allow us to hide files. This is a great way to hide files on our compromised server. We just hide files. Sure, some people might see it, but a lot of administrators aren't going to go and look, oh, is the folder option checked to find all hidden files? Those types of things. We are taking advantage of that when we do red team hacking. File extension. Let's just change the extension. The operating system, Windows, uses the extension to identify the file. So because of that, when you change the extension, if you're hiding information on that compromised server, and that compromised server is a Windows machine, guess what? It will change the icon. So even though in this case here, we're showing these are all 3 text files, one says it's an executable, one says it's a text file, which is correct, and one says it's an Excel spreadsheet. But because the operating system only looks at the extension, all 3 files look different than an actual text file. And this is another way of hiding information. And then we use some little techniques that's more advanced called resource hackers and all kinds of cool stuff we can do. File signature. Well, if the operating system only looks at the extension when it opens it, the application is going to look at the file header. And the header of executable files is DLLs, DRV, etc. So what we can do in the headers are put in an MZ, and a lot of your monitors, your antivirus, stuff like that, will see MZ and only load signatures based on an executable file. We might be able to evade antivirus that way. When we talk evasion, we'll talk about this more. But this is a method we have used many times to evade antivirus over the years. If you want to look it up sometime, look up a technique called magic byte bypass, because those first two characters, MZ in this case for an executable, is a byte, and that's considered the magic byte. So a JPEG file has a JFIF as the header. If I change it to an MZ, a lot of tools might see the MZ and only those signatures and monitor for an actual executable file, and in fact, it's a JPEG file. File segmentation. Put the file across multiple locations. Fragmentation happens daily on machines. Comes from the days when files would be too large to fit on one media item. We divide it into sections. And then we spread them across locations. Put some in the registry as binary types, put them at the end of files. We put them in locations where it's hard to extract them. Again, this is methods we can use to, once we compromise that server, as our red team does, we hide information, hide it in plain sight. And my favorite, Microsoft, when they were creating the NTFS, New Technology File System for NT, when they was creating that, they wanted to support HFS, which Microsoft had looked at Apple, and Apple had really fast index searching. So they had two forks, resource and data is how HFS did it. Well, Microsoft's answer was to do streams. The primary data stream in NTFS is the file contents. The alternate data stream is whatever you put in there. It should only be attributes and everything telling you about the file or keywords to do your indexing. But unfortunately, it's whatever you want to put in there. Now, Microsoft for years and years and years and years denied this was a problem and said, oh, it's a feature, it's no big deal or anything like that. Finally, starting at Windows 7, we can no longer execute these natively in the Windows environment. But we still can store information in the alternate data stream. And that is a benefit to us as Red Team hackers, because now we can still put information in the alternate data stream and hide it from the administrators. We can put Trojan code there, we can put executable data, we can put encrypted data, music, you name it, the sky's the limit. Because you know what the size limit is of this thing? Old NTFS, 1 gigabyte. New NTFS, unlimited. Designed NTFS, so I said, for searching. Allows another data storage areas to be attached to a file or folder to give it attributes. Because anybody of you out there, you ever went and you've actually named a file and you forgot the name of it? I can be raising my hand on that one. That's happened to me before. Well, what you can do is you can set up an alternate data stream of keywords and say all these files for Project X are all part of this. And then if you lose it, you do that search in Windows and it searches index and looks for Project X. It shows you all the files with that alternate data stream character attribute of keyword Project X. Alternate data streams exist only within NTFS. The stream is lost if it's copied to a FAT, file allocation table partition. File can't be sent via email, can't be attached in the email. If file is sent to a DVD or CD, that's not an NTFS volume or media, and it's not carried across. Alternate data streams are usually small, less than 500 bytes. There's no limit to the number of streams. It means I can have as many of these things as I want. Multiple streams can be attached to the same file or folder. System utilities will not show the space used by an alternate data stream. They show only the size. They show only the size of the primary data stream. Guess what? We can store code in an alternate data stream, and we can execute it, which was one of Microsoft's biggest statements when they came and they found out about the vulnerability. It says, well, you can't do anything but store information there. You can't execute it. Guess what? We figured out a way to execute it with Microsoft's own start command. So that's what the example here is showing you. We're storing the calculator file, because we like to pick on calculator, in this test.txt1.exe. And then we're starting or running the calculator program from the command line from a text file. Cool, huh? So how do we find these things? Well, unfortunately, you got to go get a third-party tool. And you got to search. We got streams, we got LADs, we got SFind, we got LNS. All these are tools to look for alternate data streams, because there is no inherent within Microsoft tool, unless you install patches and that type of thing, of detecting alternate data streams. How do we remove them? Delete the file? Or, as I show in the example here, I can echo a null over the stream. But the power for our hacking standpoint for red team hacking is I can store information. So remember how we talked about cracking passwords? How we talked about pilfering or exfiltrating information from the target? I can put it in an alternate data stream and come back and pull it out because I'm the only one that knows it's there and view it when I need it and things like that. And the administrator, in most cases, will never even know the data is there. Okay, we'll cut and break here and do a demo of alternate data streams.